Gentlemen, let us begin with truth and a touch of shock. For far too long, society has whispered that after 60, a man's best nights are behind him. That passion is a young man's game, that desire belongs to the past, and that the body must quietly resign to age. But I stand before you to say, those whispers are lies. The very techniques once stamped as forbidden, dangerous, or even shameful may be the exact sparks that awaken your partner's deepest cravings and your own most powerful presence. My name is Dr. Jonathan Prescott. I've spent over 3 decades as a urologist and men's health researcher, sitting with men from every walk of life, firefighters, teachers, veterans, truck drivers, who believed intimacy was fading away. They came to me tired, unsure, and convinced that their fire had gone out. Yet time and again, I have seen their eyes light up when they realized the truth. Passion does not disappear with age, it transforms. And in that transformation lies an opportunity for depth, connection, and pleasure that no 20-year-old could ever understand. Here is the paradox: the very moves you were warned never to attempt, the ones labeled dirty, reckless, or disrespectful, are, when approached with trust and tenderness, the ones that can bring your partner closer than ever before. These are not acts of cruelty. They are invitations, ways of awakening the nervous system, the brain, and the heart in ways polite routine never could. Gentlemen, this is not about proving your manhood, it is about reclaiming it with wisdom. And that is why tonight I will share 3 so-called forbidden techniques that, when done correctly, can make her crave you in ways that feel primal, emotional, and unforgettable. More than that, I will give you a framework to use them safely, so that what once felt taboo becomes the bridge to trust, laughter, and rediscovery. But before we begin, let me ask you to join me in something important. If you believe that your best years of intimacy are still ahead, I want you to hit that subscribe button right now. Turn on the bell so you never miss the kind of knowledge and guidance that can reignite your passion at 60, 70, or beyond. And gentlemen, tap that like button this very moment. Not for me, but for yourself. Because every time you press it, you're sending a message to your own spirit: I am not done yet. I am alive. I am ready to live with passion again. If you like this, may your nights be filled with deeper connection. If you like this, may your mornings be brighter with the kind of confidence that carries into every part of your day. And if you like this, may your strength as a man, your courage, your tenderness, your vitality grow stronger with each passing year. Now I want to hear from you. If this message resonates, type 1 in the comments. If you're skeptical, type 0 and tell me why. I read every word. And I welcome every challenge, because this space is built on honesty, not empty promises. Gentlemen, tonight we begin a journey, not back into the past, but forward into the most powerful years of your intimate life. And the first step is to understand the truth about forbidden pleasure after 60. Gentlemen, by the time most men reach their 60s, a quiet story has already taken root in their minds. The best days of passion are behind me. You've worked, you've carried responsibility, you've been the rock for your family, and you've lived through decades of routine. And somewhere along the way, intimacy may have become a shadow of what it once was: predictable, quiet, almost mechanical. I've heard it from so many men in my office. Doctor, I think my wife and I are done with that chapter. But here is what I want you to know, and I want you to let this sink deep. Nothing could be further from the truth. The years after 60, for couples who are willing to step outside of rigid rules, can be the most passionate, the most liberating, and the most connected of your life. Not despite your age, but because of it. For decades, society, religion, even family culture told you to stay away from certain touches, certain words, certain playful acts. They were stamped forbidden, labeled dirty, treated as if crossing those lines would destroy respect or damage love. Many of you obeyed, you buried your curiosity, you folded away the questions, convinced yourself those doors must remain closed. And yet I have sat with men who dared, sometimes hesitantly, sometimes nervously, to talk with their partners about those very doors. And I watched their lives change. One man in his 70s told me with tears in his eyes, "Doctor, I thought my wife and I were finished." Then we finally admitted to each other that we both wanted more, not less, more. What they discovered was that the so-called forbidden did not destroy their bond, it renewed it. Here is why. At this stage of life, your body may be slower. Erections may need more attention. Energy may require more pacing. But your nervous system, the largest sexual organ you have, is still hungry. Hungry for novelty, hungry for rhythm, hungry for the spark that routine cannot provide. The brain lights up when something feels fresh, when it carries just enough edge to excite without threatening. That's why what once felt off-limits now feels so thrilling. Not because you are breaking rules, but because you are awakening parts of yourself and of her that have slept for years. I've seen couples laugh again, desire again, rediscover each other, not through pills or surgeries, but through honesty, courage, and playfulness. That is the truth about forbidden pleasure after 60. It is not a closed door. It is an open invitation. Gentlemen, hold on to that thought because next we will take the first step into these techniques, starting with something deceptively simple yet incredibly powerful. The art of speaking her desire into existence. Gentlemen, many men believe touch is everything. The firmness of the hand, the strength of the body, the movement of hips. And yes, these matter. But in my 3 decades of listening to couples, I have discovered something that surprises nearly every man who hears it. What truly makes her tremble is often not the weight of your hand, it is the sound of your voice. This is the art of what I call name play. Too often men dismiss this as nothing more than dirty talk. They cringe at the phrase, thinking it vulgar, unnecessary, even embarrassing. But that is a shallow reading. At its core, name play is not about filth. It is about recognition, permission, and celebration. It is the act of naming what is happening in her body, of speaking her desire into existence, and of reminding her that in this moment she is fully seen. Think of the decades many women your age have lived through, decades of restraint, of being told to stay quiet, to be polite, to keep the bedroom calm and orderly. For many, intimacy became a place of silence where she was expected to suppress her voice and her needs. Gentlemen, when you lean in, when you whisper with tenderness and confidence, you do more than arouse her. You free her. You give her permission to let go of the weight of all those years. I remember a man in his late 60s who came to me with a simple confession. Doctor, I don't know what to say to her anymore. His wife had grown quiet in the bedroom and he thought desire was gone. I suggested he start small, no scripts, no elaborate fantasies, just observation. That night, as he touched her, he leaned close and said, "I love how your body is warming under my hand." He told me her response stunned him. Her entire body softened, melted into his, as if that one sentence had unlocked something deep inside. It wasn't vulgar. It wasn't forced. It was truth spoken with courage. The secret, gentlemen, is not in the words themselves, but in the asking. Before you bring this into the bedroom, sit with her in calm daylight. Ask what words excite you, what words make you uncomfortable. Write them down if you need to, because the act of asking builds trust long before the first word leaves your lips. Then when the moment arrives, breathe with her. Whisper in rhythm with her movements. Let your voice mirror what her body is already telling you. Describe, affirm, honor. The power lies in being present, in letting her know you are not just touching her body, you are listening to her soul. Gentlemen, when you master the art of name play, you discover that words can caress just as surely as hands. They can melt resistance, invite surrender, and unlock laughter and desire that routine intimacy could never reach. And if words can do that, imagine what happens when rhythm enters the picture. That is where we turn next. Gentlemen, every great experience, whether it is a story, a song, or a night of intimacy, follows a shape. A beginning, a rise, a peak, and a gentle close. What separates a forgettable encounter from one that lingers in her memory is not just the technique, but the way you shape the entire journey. This is what I call the framework: frame, build, crest, and land. Let us begin with the frame. Think of this as the opening chapter. This is where you set the tone, where trust is established, and where curiosity awakens. A single sentence can frame the night, something as simple as, "Would you like me to use the words we talked about, guiding my hand with your rhythm and giving you that gentle pull we discussed?" The power lies not only in the question itself, but in her yes. That yes becomes the anchor that lets her feel safe, excited, and fully ready for what comes next. Then comes the build. This is not about rushing forward. This is about patience, anticipation, and steady rhythm. The build is where you teach her nervous system to trust you, your breath, your hands, your words, all aligned, all consistent. Think of it as laying down a foundation of rhythm. You are saying without words, "I am here with you, I am listening, I am moving with you." This is the stage where her anticipation grows, where her body begins to crave more, not less. Next is the crest. This is the moment of intensity. Here, the playful words spoken earlier grow sharper, the rhythm of your palm grows bolder, the pull of her hair sends that shiver you've both been waiting for. The crest is where passion peaks, where restraint falls away, and where desire is fully embraced. But even here, the key is not reckless force, it is alignment. When her breath quickens, when her body arches, you match her energy, giving her precisely what she is asking for without a single word. And finally, the land. Too many men neglect this stage, and it is often the difference between a night she forgets and a night she treasures. To land means to bring her safely back down. You soften your touch, you hold her close, you whisper what you loved about her response. The landing is what tells her nervous system, you are safe, you are cherished, you can rest now. Gentlemen, when you land her well, you do more than finish an encounter, you make her long for the next one. Remember this, techniques without a framework can feel scattered. A framework without tenderness can feel mechanical. But when you combine both, the arc of the story with the heart of a lover, you create intimacy that lingers not only in her body but in her memory long after the night has passed. And once you understand the shape of passion, you are ready to add rhythm, an element that awakens her body in ways routine touch never could. That is where we turn next. Gentlemen, I know the very word spanking may stir unease. For many men your age, it carries memories of childhood punishment or warnings from pulpits and classrooms that it was wrong, cruel, or childish. So when I tell you that rhythmic spanking, done with care and intention, can be one of the most powerful techniques to awaken her body, your first reaction may be disbelief. But hear me out. This is not about pain. It is about rhythm, about connection, and about unlocking circuits of pleasure her nervous system is already wired to crave. The buttocks are among the most sensitive zones of the human body. They are rich in nerve endings connected directly to the pelvic floor and the clitoral complex. When your palm lands gently, not harshly, and in a steady tempo, her body interprets it not as violence but as waves, waves that ripple through her skin, through her muscles, through her spine. The brain, gentlemen, loves patterns. Just as a drumbeat in a song can make your foot tap without thinking, a rhythmic touch on her body can make her hips sway, her breath deepen, and her desire rise. I remember a man in his late 60s who came to me embarrassed. He told me his wife had asked him to try it and he didn't know how. He feared it would hurt her. He feared it would make him feel ridiculous. But one night he gathered his courage. He placed his open palm on the soft curve of her buttock, let the warmth of his hand sink into her skin, and then delivered a slow, steady smack in rhythm with his breathing. He told me her response stunned him. She arched, she sighed, she whispered, "Don't stop." What he discovered in that moment was not cruelty but connection. The secret lies in the preparation. You don't begin with force, you begin with warmth. Rest your hand first. Stroke, caress. Let the skin welcome your presence. Then introduce rhythm, gently press, release. Press again with a tempo that matches her breathing. Watch her body. Listen to her sighs. If she leans into you, if she exhales deeply, if her muscles soften under your touch, you are in the right place. And just as important as the beginning is the close, never end with abruptness. When the rhythm slows, rest your hands softly on her skin. Kiss the warmed spot, soothe it with your palm, tell her with both touch and words that she is safe in your care. Because what lingers in her memory is not just the sensation itself, but the way you carried her through it with presence, with tenderness, with trust. Gentlemen, if words can melt her through name play, rhythm can make her body pulse in ways you may have never witnessed. And when you combine rhythm with intention, you create a symphony her nervous system will remember long after the night is over. But there is yet another pathway, one that sends shivers from scalp to spine. Awakening circuits most men never dare to touch. That is where we turn next. Gentlemen, of all the techniques we've discussed, hair pulling may be the most misunderstood. For many men, even the mention of it brings hesitation. You fear it looks aggressive, disrespectful, even harmful. But when practiced with gentleness, precision, and trust, hair pulling becomes something else entirely. It is not about dominance. It is about awakening one of the most sensitive, overlooked regions of the human body, the scalp. The scalp is alive with nerve endings, connected through the trigeminal nerve to pathways that run down the spine and into the pelvic floor. When you stimulate this area correctly, you can ignite a cascade of sensations that travel like lightning through her entire body. A slow, deliberate pull can ripple down her back, quicken her breath, and awaken a sense of surrender that polite, routine intimacy could never reach. I recall a couple in their 70s who had never ventured beyond the basics. They admitted to me that their intimacy had become predictable, almost mechanical. After careful conversation, the husband finally gathered his courage. During a tender moment, he slid his fingers close to his wife's scalp, gathered a small handful of hair not at the ends but at the roots, and pulled gently back as he kissed her lips. He told me her eyes widened with surprise, then softened into pure pleasure. What mattered most was not the act itself, but the way it was delivered, steady, intentional, never rushed. Here lies the key, the grip. You must never snatch or jerk at the ends. That is painful, careless, and unsafe. Instead, hold close to the roots. Imagine guiding, not controlling. Your pull should flow with her breath. Inhale as you draw back slowly, exhale as you release. When done this way, the rhythm feels natural, almost like a wave. And gentlemen, always pair the act with presence, a kiss on her cheek, a whisper in her ear, the reassurance that she is cherished, not used. And just as in rhythmic spanking, the close matters here too. Afterward, soothe her scalp with a gentle massage. Stroke her hair, whisper what you loved about the way she responded, let her know she is beautiful in your eyes. This transforms what could have felt risky into something sacred, an experience she will not only accept but may long for again. Remember, hair pulling is not about aggression. It is about contrast. The steady pull awakens intensity, the tender release restores safety. Together, they create a balance that magnifies both trust and desire. Gentlemen, when you master this art, you unlock a level of connection that surprises even the most seasoned couples. Words through nameplay stir her mind, rhythm awakens her body, and a gentle pull at her scalp unites the two, mind and body, in a moment of powerful intimacy. But passion, as you know, is not only about what to do, it is just as much about what not to do. And that is where we must turn next. Gentlemen, let me share one of the hardest truths I've learned after 3 decades of working with men and couples. Passion only thrives in the soil of trust. Without trust, even the most exciting technique withers into confusion, resentment, or silence. That's why understanding what not to do is just as important as learning the techniques themselves. Too many men rush forward with eagerness, forgetting that intimacy is not about proving a point, it is about honoring another person's body, mind, and heart. The first rule: never surprise her. What feels adventurous to you can feel violating to her if she has not agreed. I remember counseling a couple where the husband, filled with enthusiasm, tried rough play without warning. She shut down instantly, not because the act itself was unbearable, but because it felt like her trust had been broken. Once that happens, rebuilding closeness can take weeks, months, even years. Always discuss, always invite, always get her yes. The second rule: never mix these practices with anger, alcohol, or distraction. Gentlemen, I cannot emphasize this enough. Intimacy requires clarity and presence. If your mind is clouded, if her heart is unsettled, what should be thrilling can quickly turn unsafe. I've seen men assume that a drink will loosen the mood. But what it often loosens is awareness, the very thing that keeps passion secure. Save these practices for when both of you are fully present, alert, and willing. The third rule: never ignore her signals. Words are important, but so is silence, so is the way her body shifts. If she tenses, if her breathing grows shallow, if her energy pulls away, stop. Respecting a no in the moment is what makes her future yes even stronger. Too many men push forward, thinking persistence is strength. In truth, restraint is the deeper form of strength. And finally, remember this: never use these techniques to fix a broken relationship. They are not weapons, they are not tests of loyalty, they are gifts. If your marriage is wounded, if your partnership carries resentment, do not imagine that a spanking or a pull will heal those fractures. What these practices can do when used with care is magnify love. But if misused, they magnify distance. Gentlemen, here is the paradox. Knowing what not to do makes what you do infinitely more powerful. Because she will know, in the deepest part of her, that you are safe. And when a woman feels safe, she can open in ways that surprise you both. And that trust, that openness, leads us to something new, something this channel has never done before. It is time to hear directly from you, my viewers, and to answer your questions and challenges. Gentlemen, one of the greatest joys of building this community is hearing directly from you. Every week I read your comments, your questions, your doubts, and even your jokes. Tonight, let's pause from the teaching and walk into a conversation, because intimacy after 60 is not a lecture. It's a dialogue. Question 1 from Robert in Ohio. Doctor, my wife and I have been married 42 years. We've never done anything forbidden. Isn't it too late to start now? Robert, let me be clear, it is never too late. Desire does not expire with age. What changes is the approach. You don't need to reinvent yourselves overnight. Start with a conversation, a whisper, a touch that carries curiosity. The door you open now may feel small, but once trust walks through, passion will follow. Question 2 from James in Arizona. Dr. Prescott, be honest, aren't these techniques just tricks to cover up the fact that men our age can't perform like we used to? James, I appreciate the bluntness. And here's the truth, these aren't tricks, they are amplifiers. At 20, raw performance may have been enough. At 60, intimacy becomes about depth, creativity, and presence. These techniques don't hide weakness, they reveal strength. They show that you, as an older man, understand connection in a way young men cannot. Question 3 from Charles in New York. Doctor, I tried whispering during intimacy, but my wife laughed. Did I fail? Charles, laughter is not failure, it's release. It means you broke the silence, you changed the routine, you sparked something new. Don't take it as mockery, take it as freedom. If she's laughing, she's breathing, she's opening, stay with it. Humor and passion are not enemies, they are allies. Question 4 from a skeptical viewer. Username Old Dog No New Tricks. This sounds like nonsense. Words, spanking, hair pulling, aren't you just dressing up childish games? To you, my skeptical friend, I'll say this, childish games are about ego. What I am teaching is about awakening the nervous system, the brain, and the heart. Science shows novelty stimulates desire. If you believe intimacy after 60 is only about repetition, then yes, you may dismiss this. But if you believe in discovery, you'll find these practices are not childish, they are timeless. Question 5 from Samuel in Texas. Doctor, what if I want to try these, but she says no? Samuel, then the answer is no. Consent is the foundation, but don't stop the conversation. Ask what excites her, what she has always wondered about, what she secretly misses. Often the no is not about the act itself, it is about fear, timing, or trust. Respect her no and you'll be amazed how often a new yes will come later. Gentlemen, thank you for your honesty, your skepticism, your courage. This community is proof that intimacy after 60 is alive and growing. And now, let's continue our journey with a piece many men overlook. The quiet secret that happens after the passion fades. Gentlemen, if there is one step men most often overlook, it is this: what happens after the fire fades. Too many of us grew up believing that once the act is over, the moment is complete, but intimacy is not a race with a finish line. It is a journey, and the way you close that journey often determines whether she will want to take it again. This final step is what I call aftercare, the secret ingredient that transforms passion into trust, and a single night into lasting connection. Aftercare is not complicated, but it is profound. It is the art of reminding her that beyond excitement, beyond the intensity, she is safe, cherished, and deeply respected. When you take those extra moments to hold her, to soothe her, to speak tenderness into her ear, her body does not just remember the passion, it remembers the security. And that memory is what makes her crave you again. I recall a couple in their late 60s who admitted they had experimented with spanking for the first time. The wife told me she enjoyed the surprise of rhythm, but what lingered most in her heart was not the sensation of her husband's hand, it was what came after. He brought her a glass of water. He kissed the very spot he had touched. He whispered, "You are everything to me." That simple act of care transformed what could have felt risky into a memory she wanted to relive. Aftercare can take many forms. It can be as simple as pulling her into your arms and letting your breathing sink until her heartbeat steadies. It can be stroking her hair gently after a hair-pulling session, turning intensity into comfort. It can be massaging her scalp, whispering praise, or simply staying present in silence while she feels your warmth. Even a small gesture, a towel placed by the bed, a soft blanket pulled over her shoulders, tells her nervous system, the landing is gentle, you are safe. And let me be clear, aftercare is not just for her, it is for you too. Those moments of closeness nourish your spirit, reminding you that you are not just proving manhood, you are deepening manhood. You are choosing tenderness after intensity, presence after passion. That balance is what makes intimacy sustainable, joyful, and unforgettable in this stage of life. Gentlemen, never skip this step. Because when you learn to close with tenderness, you do more than end a moment. You build anticipation for the next one. And speaking of the future, let me show you why these forbidden techniques matter most at this age, and why 60 is not a barrier, but the perfect bridge to deeper passion. Gentlemen, let's face the question that lingers in the minds of so many men at this stage of life. Does passion really matter after 60? The world often tells you no. It whispers that desire is for the young, that intimacy at your age should fade into quiet companionship, that your role is to step aside. But I have seen the opposite. I have watched men in their 60s, 70s, even 80s rediscover a fire that not only reignited their marriages, but gave them a renewed sense of life itself. Why does this matter so much now? Because at 60, you carry something younger men do not: wisdom, patience, and presence. You are no longer proving yourself in the way a 20-year-old must. You are not chasing numbers or conquests. You are building depth. You are shaping connection. And that, gentlemen, is why intimacy at this age can be the richest of all. The so-called forbidden techniques, name, play, rhythmic spanking, gentle hair pulling, matter most now because they awaken parts of the body and brain that routine intimacy has long neglected. At 20, novelty comes naturally. At 60, novelty must be chosen. And when it is chosen with trust, it sparks a kind of electricity that routine simply cannot deliver. I think of one couple in their 70s. They walked into my office disconnected, their intimacy reduced to polite touches and quiet duty. Within weeks of exploring these practices, slowly, carefully, always with respect, they returned transformed. She told me, tears in her eyes, "Doctor, I feel like a woman again." He said, "I feel alive." They did not find a magic pill, they found courage. Courage to speak, to listen, to play. That is the medicine most men need. So what is the takeaway? Age is not a barrier, it is a bridge. At this stage of life, your nervous system is still hungry, your brain is still wired for pleasure, your heart still longs for closeness. What changes is the way you awaken it. You no longer rely on raw energy, you rely on presence, rhythm, and trust, and that, gentleman, is more powerful than youth could ever offer. Now let us bring this series to a close with clarity. We have walked through the truth about forbidden pleasure after 60. We have explored the art of name play, the rhythm of spanking, the intensity of hair pulling, the framework that shapes desire, the mistakes to avoid, the secret of aftercare, and we have heard your questions, doubts, and triumphs. What I want you to carry with you is simple. Your best years of intimacy are not behind you. They are waiting for you, but knowledge alone is not enough. Action is required. Tonight, I challenge you, speak with your partner. Ask the questions you've never asked. Whisper the words you've always held back. Try one new rhythm, one new touch, one new act of tenderness. Do not let fear or shame keep you from what is yours to reclaim. And before we part, I ask you to join me in building this community. Hit that like button if you believe intimacy belongs at every age. When you do, may your nights be full of warmth, may your mornings bring confidence, and may your years ahead be rich with laughter and connection. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss the knowledge and encouragement that will keep your fire alive. And in the comments, type 1 if you are ready to begin or 0 if you still doubt. I will read them all. And I will answer you. Gentlemen, passion after 60 is not a myth. It is not a memory. It is a choice. And if you make that choice with trust, tenderness, and courage, you will discover that the door to desire is not closing. It is opening wider than ever. Your journey does not end here. It begins tonight.